welcome to Mysore Meetup group. So today we have Vidisha with us. She will be talking about DevOps, significance of DevOps. Okay. So before that, I'll like to read out some safe harbor statement. So both the speaker and the host are organizing this meetup in individual capacity only. We are not representing our companies here, and this presentation is strictly for learning purpose only. This presentation is not meant for any promotional activities. All right, and some housekeeping rules. So we are recording this, and a recording of this will be uploaded to YouTube and events page. You can refer to within 24 hours. And questions, we have enabled mics for everyone. You can ask us at any time and directly to the speaker. Feel free and give us feedback. So we have two organizers for this meetup. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Shubham Chaurasia, working as a professional integration developer in Millennium. So I am MuleSoft certified, AWS certified, and yeah, so I'm also like GCP certified as well. So over to you, Giri.
Yeah, thank you, Shubham. Good morning, everyone. So, thanks for joining us today. And today we have a topic called DevOps. Yeah, let me introduce myself first. So, I am Giridhar. I'm working at Hasdin as a senior architect. I take care of few multiple MuleSoft accounts at Hasdin. And then I'm certified developer and architect both in MuleSoft and AWS. And I'm leading this Mysore group, and I'm also a MuleSoft mentor as well. And yeah, coming to today's topic, today we have Vidisha with us, and we are going to see about the DevOps, all part of the CI/CD and pipeline stages and everything that whatever it comes under DevOps, and how it is important and why and every developer should know or should aware about this DevOps part in our day-to-day activities. So over to you, Vidisha. So all the best.
Thanks, Girdhar. I'll just share my screen quickly.
Your
I
screen is up.
hope, yeah, thanks. Hi team, thanks for joining us today, and I'm the speaker today for all of us for the DevOps session. And to introduce myself, I am a cloud specialist with 4+ years of experience as a DevOps engineer. I'm certified in AWS, Azure, and Red Hat administration. So let's get started with the session. So the agenda, quickly, we'll be covering up in the introduction. We'll be covering up what is DevOps and why do we need DevOps. Then coming to the industry standard tools and techniques that are used to achieve a DevOps friendly environment. Then the necessity of DevOps knowledge for developers. And then at the later stage, we're going to discover some best practices and the troubleshooting skills for all the developers and people who are looking forward to work in a DevOps friendly environment. What is DevOps? So, DevOps is a combination of cultural philosophies, practices, tools, and tools that increase an organization's ability to deliver application and services at higher velocity. And it also helps us to, to deliver the product at a faster pace than compared to the traditional software development and the infrastructure management processes. So we have the whole DevOps, the idea of DevOps works on the 7 C's of DevOps, which are very important are must for a person who wants to work in a DevOps environment. So those 7 C's are continuous operation, continuous planning, continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous monitoring, continuous delivery, and continuous feedback. So when we say that we want to achieve a DevOps friendly environment, we must ensure that we are following all those 7 C's. So this start with when the developer is developing a code, and the DevOps cycle ends at the releases to the when we have released the end product or the application to the a customer, we can say. And all, and you can, as you can see that we have a company, it is building, it is testing, it is releasing, and then just the cycle is not completing at the release stage. It's also extending to monitoring and planning, which is very very important, because we need to continuously monitor that our application should be up and running at every time, and all the SLAs are followed, and we need to monitor for alerts and for troubleshooting. So this is everything, how an application works is covered under DevOps. Now, why DevOps? So, before just going through these points of why DevOps, I would like to, give a classic example of a DevOps environment. So we all are aware about Netflix, which is a huge streaming platform. So why Netflix, and how is, so every site or every website that we deal with in a day-to-day environment, like it can be a ticketing application, it can be a shopping application or streaming application, all are working on DevOps, all are following a DevOps approach. So how, just I gave an example of Netflix, right? So how is Netflix able to achieve this? So it has hundreds of microservices, it has thousands of daily production changes, and thousands of virtual machines working on Amazon Web Services, millions of customers who are daily interacting at different time zones from different locations of the world, and so much of such a bigger matrix, and the team that's managing the whole thing is, with zero network operation centers, and approx just 70 operation engineers are handling it. So how is all this able to be achieved? It is all because we are following a DevOps approach. And So this is how DevOps is helpful. So it helps in speed, rapid delivery. It helps to increase the frequency and the pace of releases, right? And helps us to scale the environment. Means there are certain duration of when the website is least excessive, means the people are very, the load and traffic on the website is very less, and there are certain duration of time when we have thousands and millions of customers approaching the website. So how is that scalability maintained? And then there is improved collaboration between multiple teams. There is a development team, there is a testing team, there is an operations team. There's so many teams completely involved, so it helps in a improved collaboration. And security, definitely. Security, why? Because when we follow a structure in DevOps, we have a pipeline structure, we have CI/CD, and all the data. We have multiple cloud platforms that are helping us achieve this environment. So there's high level of encryption, there's high level of security. There are multi-factor authentication and key encryptions are happening. So not when it comes to a simple on-prem environment, and when it comes to a virtual environment, everything is more secure in DevOps. So now, tools and techniques for DevOps. Like I mentioned previously, we have different C's that we are following in DevOps, and which are the most important. So for every stage, we have a designated tool, and we have a lot of tools. Some are open source and some are paid. With the paid version helps us unlock some more functionalities, I would say. And the ones which are free of cost available and are open source might give us a little less, but then people are more reliable, means inclined towards using those. So when we see, we have Bitbucket, Git, and GitHub for code development. We have Jenkins for continuous integration, Selenium for testing, and for building we have Apache, and Gradle and Maven builds. So, and we have cloud platforms, like we are very much aware of Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google Cloud. On we have hybrid cloud structure, we have private cloud, we have public clouds. When a company is handling its own cloud, then it's a private one. When a organization opens up it for multiple other organizations, just like Amazon has done and Azure, Google has done, like we can go and host our code there. So those are private public clouds or the hybrid clouds. Then we have monitoring tools like CloudWatch, Splunk. We have and communication tools which helps us create alerts. So we have Slack, we have Teams, like we have been using this. And we have orchestration platforms which helps us to create a better management of our infrastructure. Like we have Kubernetes, we have Docker, we have OpenShift. So all these helps us to achieve a very DevOps friendly environment, and host our code, and makes our application available with 99.99% of SLAs. So yeah. Moving on to the next one. Please, anytime if you feel like asking something, or you feel like feeling about a question, like please, you can ask me. Now, the necessity of DevOps for developers.
Hey, hi Vidisha.
Yeah, yeah, please.
Can you move to the previous slide, please?
Sure.
I'm just curious, within your client or within your organization, what tools you guys are using?
For code development, we have Jenkins there, which is a continuous integration tool. Okay,
Mhm.
it helps us to build the code. Now there we have Groovy scripts, we have Maven builds, we have Gradle builds, and we have Sonar Cube as well there for code analysis. Now, our all the repositories and our packages are stored on Nexus and Artifactory. Okay, then we have Anypoint platform where we are, publishing the end code. We have enabled Microsoft Teams is also there, and all these and for continuous deployment we have Echo. So this is the whole tech stack that we have been using.
Okay, and how about logging and monitoring?
So see, that's not on us for now. That's a different team that's handling the monitoring part. So but yes, we have monitoring enabled.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, thanks. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Mhm. Okay, then moving on to the next thing is necessity of DevOps for developers. So since many of you might be thinking, like, when we have a different team handling the whole DevOps thing, right? Why do we need developers to know DevOps? So like, see, when the basics of the whole thing should be aware, should be known to everyone. So since we say that we are not following a waterfall model here, that a development team is doing the development, then the testing team is then moving on, the code is passed to the testing team for testing, and then it is passed to the deployment team for the deployment. But rather than following that waterfall model, what we are actually doing is a collaborative approach. Okay, so when we say a collaborative approach, so everybody has the visibility of what's happening with our code, starting from the development itself to the last release. So that's how, when we say that the DevOps knowledge is very essential for all the developers, testers, and operations teams as well. So what it helps us to achieve is, it increases the productivity, it improves stability of the releases, it improves deployment quality, and qualitative or improved software, of course, since we have provision for feedback, and we have less time wasted. Then it has to improve the software quality, and it lessens the communication gap, which is very obvious. And so it helps to create a synchronized and a friendly niche environment to work with, because everything is planned, and everything has a flow, how it works. And for every issue that we encounter, we have a certain steps to be followed, and it's all very smooth and synchronized. Now, coming to the pipeline structure, like, I'm not sure if everyone is aware that how we achieve this, but in DevOps, we follow a pipeline structure from right from the beginning. That's the starting point, as you can see here. It's the development of the code. So what the developers are doing is that development of the code, and they can do it on any source code management tool, which could be a GitHub, Code Cloud, Bitbucket, anything, right? And then once the code is developed, then they check out the code. That's the basic process everyone is aware about. But then after that, the things start. So once the code is committed and it's checked out, the build start from the Jenkins pipeline or the continuous integration tool, whatever we are using. The build starts, and we have Maven build, we have Gradle build, we have different kinds of builds. And then once the build is completed, we have test cases running, we have MUnit test cases, and if you have third party tools as well, which offer your testing, right? So we have Selenium for testing purposes. And then we have code review, which is a very very important stage in a pipeline, because how do we get to know how compliant is our code, how many duplications does it have, how many bugs does it have, how what is the code coverage of our code. So all these things are available, the data, the whole data project wise available on SonarCube. So this is a very important step. And then once the code is compliant enough, we create a artifact out of it. It could be a jar file, it could be a word file, or it could be a zip file, any way, right? And then we store it on our repository so that we can enable versioning. So by enable versioning, we can store the artifacts onto the repository. And then once the artifact is available, we can just deploy that to a different environment that we have. It could be anywhere, any platform that we are targeting. And then once it is deployed, the application is up and running. And what else we need next is a notification process and a um, alerting process and a monitoring process, right? Which monitors our application upon how much high time uptime it is showing. And then if just in case it is down or it is not working as per expected, it's going to alert us to the targeted group. And that's the whole process that we follow. This is the whole pipeline structure that we have been following. And the whole process is, nothing is manual, everything is automated. So as you see, once we trigger a pipelines from the beginning, the whole process goes in stages. The outcome of the previous stage becomes the input of the next stage. So this is how the pipeline goes. So moving on to the next thing, the environment strategy in DevOps is a key. So why it's so important? Like the steps are the same, right? Anypoint Studio, we are developing the code, the source code, we merge the code, we check out the code. When we do the integration on the code, the artifact is done. But what important here is the environment strategy. We don't want the same kind of code to be available in every environment. We have different expectations, like we have different environment that we handle. We have dev testing, we have prod, sometimes we have disaster recovery, we have QA, okay, we have staging. So once we don't want the code to be directly published in the prod environment, right? We want it to be published firstly in dev, to be tested in the testing environment, then it goes to staging, and then to the production. So what DevOps helps us to do is control the whole thing like through approvals. Like in my current project as well, we have like 7 to 8 environments that we have. And we have enabled this approval process. So once we only approve the process, it's going to go into the next environment. So that's how we make sure that only the right code makes it to the prod, and there's no issues at the time of releases. And we can always roll back to the previous structure. We always have artifactory repository available, and whenever we feel that the current version of the code is not working, we can always roll back to the previous one. So that's of great importance. A few snaps of how our pipeline structure looks. So this is a dashboard for Jenkins. So when we create a Jenkins being a continuous integration tool, this is how it looks, right? And we just now, I was all it was all theoretical, but this is how our actual Jenkins pipeline looks like. So the declarative checkout SCM is a checkout stage. When we have written a code, the code commit is done from the SCM, and this is how it looks, right? And then the building stage, and then we have running stage, and we have a declarative post action. So these are not just the four stages that we should always have, but we can have as many stages that we have. Like in my current project, we have like 10 to 15 stages. Just now you can see just four, just to make you guys understand. This is a basic approach that we follow. And when we trigger a pipeline, goes to the first stage, then it goes to a second one, and then third, and it moves forward in such way. So how is it helpful? It's helpful in a way that if one of the stage fail, the whole pipeline will fail. And there's no chance that the incorrect code or something that's not expected to be there in the end environment is published. And if the code scans are failing, if there are too many bugs, if the desired code coverage is not achieved, the code pipeline will fail. And this is how the Jenkins console logs looks like. Okay, now moving on to the next one is this is code analysis and bug fixes. So this is a dashboard for SonarCube. As you can see, we have different projects showing up, project one, project two, and different. So you can see the quality gates as passed, and the last one is failing. So what does that mean? Because DevOps helps us to set up quality gates. So based on the quality gates, only a code is going to get published to the next environment, right? So like when you want that the code coverage should be 80%, and the code shouldn't be published to any environment if the code coverage is less than 80%. So all those thresholds can be set here, right? And you get a whole overview of what your code is about, and your application and the repository is about. It shows the reliability, security, the coverage, how many duplication does it have, how many bugs does it have, how many lines of code does it have. And like this is all the structure, how many projects. So see, secure, you can see on the left hand side, it's showing as quality gate, reliability, and security. So all these things can be measured. We have enough rules. So it also checks for syntax error. So once we go into each project, it's going to show a detailed description of what our code is about. So that's how we do the bugs fixes and code analysis. Any
Disha, sorry for interrupt. In
No problem.
Sonar Cube, what kind of security they have? Can you please elaborate?
Security has been see, it's not implementing any security, but it's just offering us our code analysis. Like see, as you can see on the top, we have the different options, right? We have one for rules next to quality profiles and gates. So what we do is SonarCube by default offers code analysis in like 15 or 10 to 15 different or more languages. So it has inbuilt rules, right? Which against which it is going to check our code. So it's not offering a security, but rather it is helping us to do a code analysis, like where how much coverage, what test cases are not complete, how many duplications do we have, and based on the minority majority also. Like, so there are certain bugs which are not so important, right? It would show as minor bugs. And so there are certain bugs like credential. There you have hard coded the credentials, right? It's going to show up as a major bug, and it's not going to it's going to fail the whole project. So that's how.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Disha.
Okay. Any other questions? Please feel free to ask.
Any questions in chat box, Subham?
No, we don't have any so far.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. I'll just move forward. Okay. So development plus operations, DevOps. Um, as it says, DevOps says, what is DevOps? It's the collaboration of development and operation. So just to sum that up, is it is like what we previously used to have this waterfall style projects, like which were not very fast, iterative, and responsive to change. These project used to have long cycles, and many hands off between parties. One was shifted to another, and nothing could be released in a short duration of time. Then we have this DevOps approach. So the goal of DevOps is to help bring together developers who write the application software and the operations who run the software in production. So it helps us to build them and maintain the infrastructure where we run the code. Okay, so DevOps replaces the older approach of development teams writing the application and then just passing on or throwing them to the next team who wants to deploy it, and then passing on to the next team who's going to manage the operations. right? So it helps to which used to not have much visibility of what's happening. So the testing team doesn't have visibility of what the developers have developed, all right? So in a DevOps environment, developers and operations team work side by side throughout the entire process of developing, deploying, and managing the application, right? And the whole thing is integrated with the help of a continuous integration tool. It could be different, but like it could be Jenkins, it could be Bamboo, it could be Hudson. And we have a planning stage where we do the planning, and then we write the code, and then we build the code, we test the code with the help of different tools. And then the whole integration is managed, and we deploy the code, operate, and monitor, right? So the whole thing is completely automated. There's nothing that's manual. And see, this is the structure of a single pipeline that I showed you, right, in the previous slides. But the we have tools like Echo, right? It's a continuous deployment tool. So what that continuous deployment tool is doing is it is managing multiple pipelines at the same time. So when a one pipeline finishes and it's success, then it triggers the next pipeline. Okay, and this is how the whole process goes. And then we approve the pipeline. It's going to go to the first environment, which is dev. Then we're going to do the second approval process, going to a higher environment until it's published to all the non-prod environment. And then we're finally going to approve, and it's going to go to the prod environment, right? And once it is deployed, we enable monitoring as well, right? To enable to see whether our SLAs are followed. We have pager duty calls that comes up when application is down. We have Slack for notification, right? So all those things are managed uh, synchronously in a DevOps environment. Now, coming to the best practices in troubleshooting. See, first very important thing is credential management. When we follow a pipeline structure, or if we are not even following a pipeline structure, if we are following a we are using a hybrid cloud or a public cloud like AWS, Azure, we must take care of the fact that the credential management part, the keys and everything should be managed, and it should be at a higher privacy. And notification enablement, the concerned teams, like whoever is concerned, should be enabled for notification, so that at any time when an issue arises, it should be notified to the designated team. Then we have the principle of least privileges, as it is applicable to most of our fields, that only the privileges that are important should be provided to the designated person, right? Then there's code quality analysis and bug fixes that we have already discussed, which is very, very important. A code which is not properly analyzed and the bugs, if are not fixed, there's no um, point of releasing it to a environment, and this we can't even think of deploying it to the production environment. So to have that, we have different tools which allows us to do this. We must take care of the fact that our code analysis is passed before we deploy it to the environment. We have environment strategy and approval processes, which helps us to make sure that our code goes simultaneously to one after another to each stage, and we are managing it all through our approval processes. We have branching strategy for prod and non-prod environment, which the developers are very well aware about. We must take care of the versions, and always use different branches for different environment. And merge requests are always there to help us. And that's a whole. There are other lot of best practice, but to start with, I think these are the ones we must take care about. So that was it. Any QAs, anything you want to ask, you feel free, please.
Yeah, please feel free and then ask your questions. You can clarify your doubts if you have anything on this DevOps side. Vidisha understands the integration flow and everything. She is a DevOps expertise. So we're lucky today we have the DevOps expertise to clarify our doubts as well.
So how you are managing your secrets?
Your voice is a bit low, Pratik.
Sorry. So how you are managing your secrets? Like where do you store it?
Okay, so see, for secret management, we have different functionalities. We have third-party tools as well, which helps us in secret management. But for currently in our project, what we are doing is we have keys, credential. If you have ever opened Jenkins and seen, we have this credential dashboard and credential management, which we can do. So there, only the administrators are allowed to create the keys, and once the keys are created, and we are not able to see what the value of the key is, rather we are just able to see the variable which is used, so and that variable we are using it in our pipelines. So that's not the designated team is handling those credential creation and management, but rather the whole team who's working on the pipeline. There's a whole lot of teams working for it, right? We are just able to use that variables and do our encryption process.
Right, right. By any chance, do you guys use like Vault or something like HashiCorp?
Yeah, we have been using Azure Vault as well recently. Only means like we are switching to Azure Vault. So that's
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, thanks.
thanks.
There's a question from Shruti, Vidisha. What is the best DevOps tool right now?
Okay. So, Shruti, the thing is, we can't say that we have a single DevOps tool, which we can say is the best one. But I would rather say that, like I mentioned previously, we have different stages, or we have 7 C's in DevOps, right? So it's not like a single tool can do the whole thing, but we will have different tools for different functionalities. So we can just talk about the best tools for a particular functionality rather than just say summing up the whole process into one. So like to give the better example of this is like Git. We can talk about Git, right? Git is a source code management tool, but it also offers us Git pipelines to deploy. So it is done by these runners, Git runners. We can do CI/CD as well from Git, right? But it has some sort of shortcomings, I would say. It has some limitations. So what we are doing is we are using a different tool, which is Jenkins, for continuous integration. So whatever, see, picking up the best out of what they're offering, right? So a lot of things can be achieved, multiple things can be achieved from a single tool, but we want the best, so we are picking up the in that way. So yeah, like I mentioned in the previous slide, if you want me to open that, like those are the most publicly used tools for each functionality.
There are a few questions in the chat, Vidisha. So Akash was asking, I have created a pipeline in Azure. Once again.
Okay.
Akash, can you please speak out here? I think your mic is enabled. He's saying that you have created a pipeline in Azure, pay as you go, but facing some error called no hosted parallelism has been purchased or granted. To request a free parallelism grant, please fill out the form. And he filled and submitted that form. Will that resolve his issue? He's asking.
I would say like this is based on the subscription model. Not sure, we haven't encountered this issue so far in our pipelines. Maybe there is some sort of subscription that your tool or your organization is handling, which is not allowing you to execute more. I think that's how it is. You need to check with the organization or the concerned team for this. It's not hardcode, related to DevOps, I would say. This is more of a organization or a subscription related issue.
One more question from Ajay is saying that for DevOps, do we need to learn perfectly Ansible, Terraforms, Kubernetes, Docker, and Nagios?
Okay, so my answer to this would be these are very, very important tools in DevOps. When you say Kubernetes, Docker, and Ansible, Terraform, these are these are the tools which, yes, if you want to become someone who is expert in DevOps, you must know these, because um, to achieve complete automation, you need to have knowledge or a hands-on these. But just to start with, I would say going through their official document is the best approach. And so the best part of this is, like, for example, when you talk about Terraform offers its own modules there on the website. So what you have to do is just pick up from there and do very little changes, and you can import those modules in your code. So, but yeah, knowledge on these things are very important.
So Akash is saying that he has created an account on himself, not organization account. He's saying.
I think I didn't get that.
You answered for that question, right?
Just a
So
second.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
Hi, Vidisha. Just a question from my side. Like you talked about the secrets management in the pipeline. But in the project specific on a project level, how we are managing those? I mean, not hard coding the secrets, but using in some properties file or something. How we can? What is the best practice for that?
See, the thing is, we have different portal not I would say, but functionalities. I would say credential management is one thing that Jenkins is offering, right? And so what helps us to do is, it helps us to create keys, and the same happens in Git or Code Cloud or any other tool like Nexus also. And we are able to create our keys there, and if we are and then the value of the keys for one time, okay, and we create a variable out of it. And what we can do is we can use those keys directly into our code. So there's nothing like we can't put it in our scripts, and like we have pipeline scripts also, and we have the whole in a Jenkins configuration, if you say, or we have different kinds of configuration. So what we can do is we can import those variables, and variable in itself, since it's not showing up any value, so it's very safe and secure, and only the concerned person who has created it, or the team which is allowed to modify and create those credentials, is having access to it. So it's very secure to use them directly, and in case they expire, it's not going to be valid. And once you start deploying in your process through it, it's going to fail, saying that it's outdated, when you need to use more recent credentials, it has been expired. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Hi.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are audible, Akash.
So it's not a organization creation account. So I have created myself. So it's a like a trial account. But in trial account, we don't have any option to create a pipeline. So I have used pay as you go. Uh, I created a pipeline, and when I try to build it, I have pushed the code from GitHub to a pipeline. So it was trying to build that, but it is showing us like this: no hosted parallelism has been purchased or granted. So as per that request, I have submitted that form, okay, by entering organization name and email ID. But the issue is not yet resolved. I have submitted 3 4 days ago. So will it be resolved, or is there any other way to build a pipeline in Azure? That is my question.
See, I would say go for Azure, because since you are handling all the tools locally, like you must have deployed Jenkins, or must have had this Code Cloud or whatever SCM you are using locally, then it's difficult to manage those instances and then create the connectivity. So I would, before just moving on to Azure or a cloud platform, just go and check in the global configuration whether the connectivity is working or not between the tools. Since it says it's not allowing you a parallel running the whole thing parallelly, I think somehow it's a issue with the connectivity, Just test that connection. If that's also okay, it is always better not to waste time and move on to a more secure and an automated environment, which is Azure, which helps you to not waste much time on the connectivity of the tools, but rather you can focus on building of the code which you actually want to do.
Okay.
Adding to that, Akash, Swaroop has provided a link in the chat, so you can go and check that as well. That might help you.
Yeah. Okay, Giri. Yeah.
Thank you, Swaroop. So any other questions from anyone you want to clarify? So Shubham, we can move to trivia then in that case.
Yeah, sure.
So before that, I would like to raise something about the feedback. So we have mentioned on numerous occasions